What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another Yugi-Kaiba format video, and today, just like in our last video, we are going to be covering Umi Beatdown. Now, if you haven't seen this deck before, the basic premise is pretty simple. We are just trying to play a very aggressive deck, and essentially play 3 extra copies of Login by playing Umi in conjunction with Great White, to boost that up to an 1800 attacker on a level 4 monster. So if we can manage to pull that off, that can give us just an extra edge on the aggressive side of things, and that can oftentimes be enough just to win a game. So let's dive in to the card by card breakdown if you haven't seen this before. We have, of course, 3 Great White and 1 Umi to pull off that combo that I just mentioned. We have 3 Login, 3 Neo, 3 Battleox, the level 4 beaters in the format with the highest attack. You do still want to play these because, as I said, you're trying to go pretty aggressive here, and so these just help you get even more aggressive. We're also playing 3 Giant Soldier of Stone to act as a wall. We also have 3 Man-Eater Bug to act as removal. We also have 1 Summon Skull, which is good just in case we need a way to get over our opponent's 2k defenders or over our opponent's other summoned skulls. This deck can have some major difficulties with removal, and this summoned skull does give us a bit more options in that department. Moving on to the spells, we have a Change of Heart, which can pair very nicely with the summoned skull, or just give you a bit more aggression to make, a big push at the end of the game. We also have the other limited spells, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed Raigeki, all just incredibly good and belong in pretty much every deck in this format. We have 3 Fisher to act as more removal. We have 2 Swords Revealing Light to stall our opponent for a bit, to let us get the pieces to actually bring out Great Whites with 1800 attack with the Umi. And for the traps, we have 3 Reinforcements, 3 Trap Hole, 3 Wuboku. Pretty standard trap lineup there. And we also have 1 Ultimate Offering. Ultimate Offering can be great for dodging things like Trap Hole, as well as bringing out defenders during your opponent's battle phase. I think that this sort of is a flex spot though, and if you want to play a second copy of Umi, which I know that some players of this deck want to do, then I think it's definitely fair to put a copy of Umi there instead. For the side deck, we have 3 Trap Masters to deal with like stall strategies that rely on Ultimate Offering. We have 3 Wall of Illusion against like Soul Exchange strategies. We can bounce back their Summon Skulls to hand. We have 2 Summon Skull, 2 Soul Exchange to go into a Soul Control package here against more stally decks. We have 1 Card Destruction for Exodia. And lastly, the secret spice of the side deck, we have 3 Dragon Zombie, 1 Wasteland. This is a good way to sort of punish your opponent who might try and side in some Great Whites of their own to benefit from your Umi. If you can manage to side this in those sorts of matchups, then you've got them playing basically an inferior beater, while you've just swapped out your Great Whites and Umi for something that's pretty much equivalent here. So that can be a funny little thing that you can do, and it can actually come up. And it can actually be incredibly powerful if you do manage to pull it off. I've never actually pulled it off yet, but I think it's very funny. Anyways, now that I've covered the deck, let's dive into the duels for today. Okay, we've got a game against Deo Zomph, and we're going to do the rock, paper, scissors. We managed to pull rock against their scissors, so we will, in fact, go first, which is pretty good for us, I think. And we managed to draw the Umi in the first hand. I know this happened in the last video as well. And it's just because we're simply too good, We are too skilled as a duelist. We don't have it. Oh, well, there's a Great White. I was about to say we don't have any Great Whites yet, but we just drew one because we're just too skilled. We're too powerful. Besides that, we do have a lot of monsters in hand, which will be nice for later, and 1 Trap Hole to deal with any of our opponent's super problematic monsters. But for now, we'll just set 2 and pass. Set the defender, and that should help us against whatever they have. They're going to bring out a Dragon Zombie, so it looks like they're probably on a Wasteland strategy, which is pretty interesting. This will be a battle between 2 Field Spell Tribal strategies, so you'll get to see how that plays out a bit. They're going to attack into our set with the Dragon Zombie. and take 400 for their troubles. And they're just going to set 3 and pass back to us. Swords is okay, but we don't really need it right now. We're going to bring out a Battle Axe, and that will get Trap Hold. That's why we brought out the Battle Axe instead of the Lodge-In. And then we're just going to set 1 and pass. You might be wondering, why didn't we go for the Great White Umi thing? Because if we had summoned Great White, maybe they wouldn't have Trap Hold it, because maybe they would have expected that we were just trying to crash in with their Dragon Zombie, and they might have been okay with that trade. And then if we dropped the Umi, then we would have been able to clear their monster no problem. The reason for that is if they are playing a field spell tribal deck, which it seems like they are, you don't want to activate your field spell too early, because then if they ever activate their field spell later in the game, yours will be destroyed and they'll have the edge. So we want to save this combo for as long as we can, preferably when they've already committed to their field spell. But if worse comes to worse, you know, we will have to use it. But we're fine with what just happened, and they're just going to pass back to us, which is good. We can bring out a Lodge-In, and I guess we're thinking here. I don't know why we're thinking. Oh, maybe we're thinking whether we want to switch Giant Soldier to attack or not, which is a decent consideration. I think in order to play it safe, I should probably keep the Giant Soldier. Oh, no. Okay, so I think we can go aggressive here, actually. If I switch Giant Soldier to attack, we attack him with Lodge-In. They might have like a reinforcements or something, but in that case, I can always Swords Revealing Light to protect the Giant Soldier. So it's not that bad to actually just go all aggressive and switch the Soldier to attack. It is playing a bit more safe to keep it in defense, though. This is a very aggressive deck, though, so let's see what I decide to do. I'm going to keep it in defense, which I think is wise. They're going to take 2, pass back to them. They're going to bring out a Lodge-In of their own, and we will just Trap Hole that. Lodge-In being at 1800 is just a bit too much. And they'll pass back to us. And we draw another Trap Hole to replace the one we just used, which is very nice. Now we will just go for the damage here. Trying to get in 31, and that will succeed, which is very nice to see. We'll set a Trap Hole, pass back to them. They'll bring out a Neo, and we will just Trap Hole that because we want to keep our Soldier online for as much as possible. And we've got a lot of damage on board for next turn, so we can get them pretty low pretty quickly. They're just going to pass back to us, and we are just going to attack in here. We could have summoned out Great White to try and go for lethal damage, but that's really greedy, especially if they have, like, a Waboku. I guess we could have also summoned out the Summoned Skull, tributing over the Giant Soldier, and that would have also been lethal, but again, just a bit too greedy for my blood. And they do have a Waboku, so I am glad that we didn't decide to do that. We did make one mistake there in attacking, though. We should have attacked with Lodge-In first, because then if they activated the Waboku, we would have been able to switch Giant Soldier back to defense. So that was a misplay on our part. But we're in a pretty good spot no matter what here. They're going to bring out a Dragon Zombie, try attacking into the Giant Soldier, and we are just going to activate Reinforcements in the damage step. And they're going to Swords, which I think makes sense for them. We're just going to switch the Giant Soldier to defense, set 1, pass back to them, and they will be able to reborn their Lodge-In, which is pretty good for them. They're going to Waboku and crash with our Lodge-In, so we will lose our Lodge-In, and then they will reveal that they do have a Fissure here. So they will be able to clear our Giant Soldier. Luckily, we drew a Man-Eater, which is a perfectly adequate substitute, and they're going to attack into the Man-Eater. We'll pop their Lodge-In. They'll pass back to us, and we draw a Neo. So we could just summon out the Neo and as sort of like a pseudo wall in case they have a like 1700 beater. They won't be able to attack through the Neo. And that's what we're going to do. I don't think that's strictly necessary because it's not like they could kill us next turn. And this does lose if they have like a Lodge-In. But I guess it does incentivize them to activate their field spell if they've got a Dragon Zombie in hand. And Swords is gone now. They will bring out a Battle Axe. And they are just going to decide to crash. So that's fine by us. We've got monsters to spare. And speaking of, we just drew another one. So we're going to try and bring out the Battle Ox. Unfortunately, it will get Trap Hold, so we will lose the Battle Ox. They're going to bring out Destroyer Golem, so they're going all in on the Wasteland strategy. But that is... Oh, and they do have the Wasteland now, so they will be able to get in for 17. And this would be very good if we didn't have our Umi, but our patience has paid off. We can now bring out the Great White, activate the Umi, popping their Wasteland, and we are able to attack into the Destroyer Golem, deal 300, set 1, pass back to them. They're just going to set 1, and in the benefit of hindsight, we do know that's a 1700 beater, so if the Umi Great White combo was not up, then we would not have been able to do this. So we managed to get a lot of value out of this combo so far. And we are just going to Pot of Greed. We don't, unfortunately, draw another monster, so we won't be able to go super aggro here. But we do draw Waboku for installation, which is very nice. They're just going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw another Great White, and we are just going to go for it. We've seen that they used up 2 Waboku, so if that's Waboku there, they'll probably have to use it here. 3600 is just a bit too much. If it's a Trap Hole, we baited them into using the Trap Hole. But it looks like it's neither. And we do have the reinforcements to go for game. And that was just a reinforcement of their own. So we do actually manage to win this against the other field spell deck, which feels incredibly good. I hope that showed off how you want to play in those sorts of situations where you do want to hold on to your Umi. And in general, I think it's wise to hold on to the Umi Great White combo for when you actually need it, because it will sort of mask what you're doing from your opponent, potentially. You're not always afforded that luxury, but if you are, I think you should take it. And that worked out very well for us. So we're actually just not going to side here. I guess we could side in to something else, now that we know they're on a field spell strategy. But it worked out game 1 for us, so let's see if it works out game 2. We're pretty confident that we can handle any opposing field spell strategy. And we will be going second here. And this is also not a bad hand. We have Ultimate Offering, which, if you're keeping track and you would be using an Umi in this slot instead of an Ultimate Offering, then you know that we would have had the Umi Great White combo online from turn 1. But we'll see if that ends up mattering. They're just going to set 3 and pass, and we draw a Lodgin, which is very good for us. They're going to say that's fine. We'll attack in. It is a Manured, so we'll lose the Lodgin, but we do have an Ultimate Offering, so we will be able to bring out a Lodgin during their battle phase if we need to. They're going to summon out a Battle Ox, attack in. And we could bring out the Lodgin, but we're just going to wait. We do have a Fisher to deal with the Battle Ox on their turn, and Chain Ultimate Offering to bring out the Lodgin, dodging Trap Hole. So that's a bit more safe. And we draw the Umi. So, one copy of Umi objectively correct is what you're learning here. I am kidding somewhat, but, if this was the other copy of Umi, this would have just been a brick, which would have been really unfortunate at this point. As is now, it's a pretty good card. We are just going to bring out the Lodgin because we don't fear God. We're not going to dodge the Trap Hole, even though we very much could have. And we are just going to Fisher away their Battle Ox. Get in for 18, pass back to them. They're going to Change of Heart our Lodgin, which is very unfortunate. They will be able to get in for 18 because we don't want to bring out the Great White to protect ourselves. And they're just going to summon out a Summon Skull, which is extremely unfortunate. Change of Heart's okay, but doesn't really deal with the problem at hand. We do have Dark Hole to remove it, but that's it's kind of sad that we have to use the Dark Hole as 1-for-1 removal. I think we do have to go for it, though, so we will just Dark Hole there. And we will... Yeah, this was a slight misordering. So in general, you can't do this. You can't just activate Umi and then chain Ultimate Offering to it by flipping up the Ultimate Offering. Because in Yugi-Kaiba format, continuous spells with ignition effects cannot be activated the moment that they're flipped up. And I know that that's a bunch of complex lingo, but like it basically means that if you have a continuous trap with an effect that's like actually something that you choose to do. So for instance, Ultimate Offering has an effect like you can pay 500 to normal summon or set a monster. When you first activate that trap, you can't actually activate the trap's effect at that moment. You can then activate it in another chain afterwards, but you can't activate it right away. In the battle phase, this doesn't actually end up mattering because you can flip it up and then use the effect after you flip it up. But if you are trying to do like a chain in this manner, you can't actually do this. Neither of us realized that this happened at the time, so it didn't actually end up mattering. But that is something that you should keep in mind and consider. The very like technical detail that most players will just be like, oh yeah, you're fine. You know, you messed up the activation. It doesn't matter. You could have just done it the correct order if that's what you intended to do. It's a minor rule thing, so it's fine. But occasionally you will encounter sticklers, so it's good to know the actual correct order to do things in. Anyways, all that's just to say we will summon out Great White, dodging Trap Hole with the Ultimate Offering, and then just pass back to them. They are going to Soul Exchange here, and Swords is a good card. We needed Swords, so we will activate the Swords, pass back to them. Giant Soldier's okay, but it's a lot less okay when they've got to summon Skull. They're just going to set another pass back to us. That Trap Hole comes just a bit too late. You do lose the Swords, but we do draw a Fissure at the perfect time. So we'll activate Fissure, and we will chain Ultimate Offering. So that way we can bring out the Giant Soldier, dodging Trap Hole, and we will just attack in for 13. And we have the Trap Hole to back up the Giant Soldier here, so we're feeling pretty safe. They will bring out Neo, we will just Trap Hole that, and they will activate Swords. So we'll just switch the Giant Soldier to defense, pass back to them, they'll pass back to us. Monster Reborn's an incredibly good draw here for later. We'll just set it, pass back to them. And this is the last turn on Swords. So Swords will expire. They're going to bring out a Lodgin. That's fine by us. They're going to Fissure away our Giant Soldier, but we do have the Ultimate Offering to bring out a Giant Soldier. And they will attack into that, take 2, pass back to us. And checking their graveyard, they have not used any mass board removal. So the Monster Reborn play is a bit risky, but I think it is worth going for. So I will just activate Monster Reborn, bring back their Summon Skull, attack in, and that will be met with a Waboku, unfortunately. They're going to bring out another Lodgin, and they will reveal that they do have the mass board clear in the form of Raigeki. Very unfortunate. We will be forced to summon out a Battle Ox with the Ultimate Offering, and they will try attacking in. In the damage step, we'll flip reinforcements, but they have a reinforcements of their own, so they will, in fact, be able to get in for pretty much all of our life points. Raigeki is pretty good, and unfortunately, you know, we've got 2 very powerful spells, both of which can clear this board because we Change of Heart a Lodgin, attack into their Lodgin, then they'll lose both their monsters. But unfortunately, neither of these can actually protect us if they have a monster to follow up with. So we will activate the Raigeki here, set 1, pass back to them, but unfortunately they do have a monster, so that will be the end of the game. So it looks like they sided into Soul Control, which is a bit of a tough deck for us to deal with, because this deck does have issues with removal. It can have a tough time clearing an opponent's Summon Skull, just as much as it can have a tough time clearing an opponent's wall like Giant Soldier of Stone. So I think probably the best thing to side in here would be just siding in the 3 Wall of Illusions for the Giant Soldiers of Stone to potentially protect against this strategy. I don't think we do, though, on the hope that they'll pivot back towards the Wasteland strategy, which in hindsight is not a very good hope. But, you know, we're going to do it just the same. Worst case scenario, I show off how this deck plays against Soul Control, right? Which is also a goal of mine in showing off this duel, to show how you know, against Soul Control, it can have a pretty tough matchup. But let's see how game 3 goes. This is a very good hand. Okay, we do side in the Wall of Illusion. Okay, we are playing smartly against Soul Control. That's good to see. But we are just going to Pot of Greed, summon out Battle Ox, set 3, and pass. They're going to bring out a Battle Ox of their own. They will Fisher away our Battle Ox, which is unfortunate. But we've got a Fisher of our own in case we need to. And we just drew Ultimate Offering, which is very nice. We'll bring out Neo. We'll Fisher away their Battle Ox. And we will just attack in for 17. The argument could be made that we should have just crashed the Neo. Maybe even using up the Boku for that. Because we do have Ultimate Offering as a backup. It can bring out Wall of Illusion to protect against a major offensive push. And by saving the Fisher, we'd have it for later if they brought out like a Summoned Skull or something like that. But we chose to do it this way, which is perfectly valid. It's just, I think that might come back to bite us later. But we'll see. They set 1, pass back to us, and we are just going to attack into it. It is a Man-Eater. It will pop our Neo, and we'll pass back to them. As a note, we do have the Umi, so if we do draw the Great Whites now, we will have that combo online. They're going to bring out a Battle Ox and attack in. We will just Wall of Illusion here, setting a wall of our own. They will have the reinforcements to get over that. And they'll just set 1, pass back to us. And I guess this is an argument for like what we did was correct, that we should have Fishered the Battle Ox like we did. So I'm glad that it worked out for us in the moment. Swords is an okay draw here. We can use that to stop them from getting in for a lot of damage, but they will be able to get in for some with this Battle Ox. We are just going to activate the swords we already have set. And they'll just pass back to us. We're not drawing what we really need to. They'll just set another pass back to us. Lodgin's a pretty good draw there. We just will set the reinforcements, pass back to them, and these swords will expire. So the reason we were comfortable setting the reinforcements was because the swords was expiring on their next turn anyways. So we will have a slot opened up here. Man-Eater Bug is very nice. That will be great to bring out off of Ultimate Offering later. Right now, though, we're going to activate Umi and chain Ultimate Offering to it to bring out a Lodgin. And this is another utility that Umi can have if you do play the Ultimate Offering with it, in that it can just be used as a free thing to chain to when you're trying to dodge Trap Hole. Which, given that you might not want to use something like a Fisher, or like you might not be able to use something like a Change of Heart or Raigeki or Dark Hole if your opponent doesn't have any monsters on field. It's nice just having a card that you can chain Ultimate Offering to that doesn't really cost you anything. But we're just going to try attacking into this Battle Ox here. They will take it, lose 100, pass back to us. They will bring out a Great White, so they sided into Great Whites of their own, which is very smart of them. It means that they're able to capitalize on our Umi, which is unfortunate for us. We will just Trap Hole their Great White, and they'll Swords. So we're fine as things are. We'll just set 1, pass back to them. And they're going to bring out another Great White, so we will Trap Hole that yet again. They will Fisher our Lodgin and pass back to us. We'll bring out a Battle Ox. They'll Trap Hole it, but we are kind of baiting out the Trap Hole there. They're going to bring out a Lodgin. We'll Trap Hole it. They'll pass back to us. This is our last turn under Swords. We have 2 monsters that are great to bring out off of Ultimate Offering, so we'll just hold them. They'll bring out a Lodgin. We'll pay 5, set the Man-Eater, and the Man-Eater will pop their Lodgin. And Summoned Skull's not the best right now, but it's okay. We'll just pass back to them. We could have summoned out the wall to get in for some damage. We do have the Uboku to back it up. But I think it's better just to wait and set the wall for later. They're going to bring out a Giant Soldier, try attacking in. We're just going to set the wall, bounce that soldier back to hand, and they will activate another Swords of Revealing Light. That's the second Swords of Revealing Light that they've got. And we draw another wall, so that's great if they have a Fissure or something. Or Change of Heart. They are going to bring out a Summon Skull. We are just going to pay 5 here, set the wall. That will bounce their Summon Skull back to hand. They'll set 1, pass back to us. We will activate Swords here because we don't really have a way of dealing with their Giant Soldier if they bring that out. And pass back to them. They're just going to draw 1, pass back to us. Neo is not a terrible draw here. We can use it later. We could summon it out now. That does play into Soul Exchange and the like a bit, so we might not want to. So we're just going to hold it. I think that's wise. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw Great Whites, so we do have that combo online. We're going to bring out Neo, attack into their set, and it is a Mania, so our Neo will be popped. We'll set the reinforcements, pass back to them. Our Swords is gone now, so we will summon out a Great White, attack in. Oh, I guess they're trap holing. Okay, we can chain to the trap hole, bring out the Summon Skull in hand. And you may think that that's a bit greedy here, and to be fair, it can be. Especially because they've only used up 2 Fissure, which means that they've still got 1 Fissure left. But I think it's worth doing. We really want to go on the aggressive now. We're running very low on life points without many ways to defend ourselves. So we do feel comfortable making this play. We'll summon out the Summon Skull, pass back to them. They will use Dark Hole to clear the board, and they will attack in for 17, but we do have the Uboku, so we'll be able to protect ourselves for 1 turn at least. Fissure does enable us to clear that Neo, but we really wanted a monster there, and unfortunately, they have a monster of their own to get in for lethal damage. We didn't really get to show off the Umi Great White combo in that game there, but we got to show it off earlier in the match. And I think this match was just great overall. It was very, very back and forth, I think, especially in Game 3. And it also showed off how, you can actually catch your opponent unawares, siding into things that play into their field spell. Like, our opponent successfully managed to side in Great Whites against our Umi because they saw in Game 2 that we kept the Umi in, and we didn't side into something like a Wasteland. So if we had actually sided into a Wasteland and Dragon Zombie package instead, then that potentially could have helped us out a lot here. It might have enabled us to save some trap holes for later instead of using them on Great Whites. And it showed that, this deck can suffer if their opponent sides correctly with it. I think both the siding in Game 2 into Soul Control was very good, and the siding in Game 3 into the Great White package was also extremely good. And I think that both players played these very, very well. But I hope that this match showed some of the other strengths of this deck that I didn't show off in the previous duel, as well as how it can sort of struggle against a Soul Control deck as it did in Game 2 of the match. I hope you enjoyed it, as always. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.